Good Saturday morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our recap from the DNA room, Futures Trading Coach. And here we go. This is crude oil, obviously the October contract for Friday. Our first trade of the day was between 7:30 and 8 a.m. It was an understanding trade that went up to 70 pennies. The beautiful thing about our trade is that we took it and we had to hold it, and we were a little concerned about news coming out and so on and so forth, but it was already a free trade and it went up to 70 pennies. Most people aren't going to get 70 pennies because unfortunately most individuals don't hold. Now after our first trade, what we witnessed is we witnessed a lot of retail traders buying. All of these wicks here. Just because it's a wick doesn't mean that people are buying or selling. These are things you get to learn with the methodology. But they're buying. Retailers are buying and buying and buying. So they're making, 10, 15 pennies. Wow, interesting. We had a beautiful understanding trade to the short side. And that was good for up to 64 pennies. That was not only was that a fun trade, but it was an extremely profitable trade. Next trade after that was what we call our ZL. And this has a very, very important entry. Okay, and the entry occurs based on what I call the ZL, which is a phenomenon that I discovered a long time ago. But I also want you to be aware that there was retail buying here. Okay, retail buying here. And those retail traders, they were able to, if they bought here, we don't buy here, but retail traders buy here. And they may have made up to 15 or 20 pennies. Good for them. Our ZL made us up to 60 pennies on the profit. Would you rather have 20 pennies or 60, up to 60 pennies? Obviously, you'd rather have up to 60 pennies, but you have to know the why. Why are you getting into a trade to begin with? It's everything you get to learn. All of my students, they know everything because I've taught them everything. Next trade, we had an understanding trade / S play, and that was right after 10-ish, and it was an extremely obvious trade that went up to 30 to 50 pennies. And I'll tell you what's really cool, a lot of fun here. As we're in this trade, all the retailers came in and started selling. We're still in the trade, but the blue here, it's all denoted, and boom, they're selling, making 5 pennies, 6 pennies, 8 pennies, 10 pennies. We're still in our trade, right? From down here, our trade went 30 to 50 pennies, and they either made 5 or 10 pennies. It just got stopped at again, as the retailers normally do. All right, let's move on. The last trade that we took in the DNA room, because we only trade up to noon Eastern Standard Time, is another ZL. And this ZL occurred, as I said, between 11:30 and 12, and it was a fun trade. Now, before I go into what happened here, I want you to see that the retailers were buying right over here where I'm pointing, and right over here where I'm pointing. Maybe they made 3, 4, 5 pennies, and if they held for anything, they got blown away and they lost. We were short, and this trade was good for up to 40 pennies. Nothing wrong with that. After this, and I want you to understand, after this trade, okay, everything else that's here are trades that some of my students took on their own because our room was closed. We're done, as I said, by 12 Eastern Standard Time every day. That doesn't mean the trading's over. My students trade. Sometimes I'll trade in the afternoon. Normally I'm working with students. But we did have more opportunities. We had a nice understanding trade here. that went up to 40 pennies. Again, retail traders selling got stopped out, the retail traders, or made 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 pennies. Next trade and the last trade that our methodology would have given you. Again, I did not take anything after this line here. Okay? Nor did I call any trades in our DNA room or work with any students in the DNA room. We are not open after 12 noon. So these trades are trades that many students took on their own. And the last trade that was available, and it was just a very, very obvious trade to those who know the methodology. It went up to 40 pennies. It was a short. It was another understanding trade. Many things go into it. Again, I have here for you guys to see. Retail traders are buying, right? They're buying. They're buying. And this is an opportunity to be short for our students at futurestradingcoach.com. And that trade went up to 40 pennies as well. The main thing that you need to understand, guys, is that retail traders, which most people are, they're always looking to do the opposite of what we do. And we all know that 95% of all retail traders lose as traders because they do what seems to be the obvious. We will always do the inverse of what the retail trader does. I'd like to thank you for spending the last 7 minutes with me. Have a great weekend. Have a great Labor Day. Be safe. And I apologize for my voice. I don't have a voice by the time Saturday comes around. Take care. Once again, this is Sam. Bye for now.